It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Nashville Sounds Director of Broadcast, Jeff Himm. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
That's wonderful. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in sports?
Sure. Just like about every announcer in the history of the world, you grow up wanting to be a player first, and you think that's going to happen until you realize, for me at a fairly early age, that was not going to happen. My love of sports and really all sports started when I was young, but I didn't go into college, for example, knowing that I wanted to work in sports. I thought maybe I wanted to coach it, and that might be a way to continue to be around something that I love. So I went to school initially thinking I wanted to be a teacher, and then maybe I could be a baseball coach in addition to that. And that was going to be my way of staying around athletics, something that I love. But it didn't really occur to me that broadcasting could be an option for me until later in school. I was kind of soured on the idea of becoming a teacher. I changed majors like 3 times within a 1 or 2 week period at one point in college, which maybe everybody does, I don't know. But for me, it was kind of like, what am I going to do? And I'll never forget it. I was at an extended family gathering at home on Christmas break one year. I want to say my sophomore year of school. And one of my uncles was trying to help me figure out my career path. And he said, what would you try to take the money part out of it for a second? What would you want to do if you could do anything? And I landed on broadcasting. I just it clicked for me in that moment. I don't know why it really hadn't clicked for me before. I'd obviously watched broadcasts before. I grew up listening to radio. It wasn't like I didn't know that existed. I just had not really connected I could go to school and prepare for that and make that my career, just like other guys have. So the light bulb kind of went off, and then I got into student radio, and then I started practicing play-by-play, and it just steamrolled from there. So always had the love of sports, but never really connected early on that was going to be my career. Once I realized I wasn't going to play it, I started focusing on, well, how could I coach it rather than realizing I could actually broadcast it. And now that I'm doing it, and I've been doing it for about 15 years, I don't know what else I would want to do if I weren't doing this, which tells me that I'm on the right path, and that the path that I started on a while back has turned out to be a good one for me.
That's amazing. Can you talk about, of course, what was your experience like with the Battle Creek Yankees?
Well, Battle Creek was really my first experience of regularly doing play-by-play. I graduated from the University of Iowa with a journalism degree in May of 2004. And so that winter before that, I started trying to reach out to minor league baseball teams. I've gotten some good advice from a few different people and started to kind of do the math of how can I land a job? And it wasn't that I didn't want to broadcast football or didn't want to broadcast basketball, but I just thought that minor league baseball, the volume of the number of teams in minor league baseball, lent itself well to trying to get a job somewhere, or at least an internship. And so I reached out to a bunch of teams, and Battle Creek was one that in that winter, an opening. They actually hired 2 guys. They hired one guy who graduated from his college that winter, so he could handle April when the season was getting underway, even though I wasn't going to graduate until May. And then when I graduated in May, I joined up. The team was about a month and a half in. It was an internship for a small amount of money per month. But Brandon, I felt like I was doing World Series games. I was just so excited. I'm doing baseball every day. I'm traveling with the team. And we were internet only. We weren't on terrestrial radio. I didn't care. I was calling games every day, and it was a tremendous learning experience. So much of play-by-play is finding your own style I think invariably when you first start out, you emulate and imitate the guys that you like and the guys you grew up listening to. And that's not all bad. Eventually you got to veer back to your own style and find your own voice and your own comfort level. But initially doing that, it makes you realize where you need to improve and what you need to do differently. So Battle Creek was a tremendous learning experience for me. Just the volume of innings and games that I got in that short amount of time from the middle of May through September. That was the first time I'd really been paid regularly to announce games, and I was thrilled.
What was your time like with Kane County Cougars?
That was great. So after Battle Creek, I was a job seeker again. It was a seasonal internship. Season ended in September. And, I'd gotten hooked enough to know this is what I want to try to keep doing. Now I need to land a full-time job and make a little bit more money, hopefully, and have a little bit more regular employment. So I went back home. I grew up in the Chicago area in Illinois, and that Kane County team is in my backyard. I mean, I went to some of their games as a kid, and their job opened up very shortly before opening day of 2005. But I got wind of the opening, applied for it. I think they liked the fact that I was from that area. There was some familiarity there. I did in that very same league with Battle Creek the year before. So I knew a lot of the cities and the ballparks and the organizations that I'd be traveling to if I got that Kane County job. And I did land it, and it was great. I was there for 7 years. They've got a great reputation there. They draw well. There are several current high level, including major league announcers currently in the big leagues. Dave Wills in Tampa, Scott Fransky in Philadelphia, guys who had come through Kane County. So there was kind of a proud track record there and a good base of knowledge that I then got connected to as one of kind of the Kane County announcers, a member of that group, so to speak. Wayne Randazzo with the Mets went through Kane County. So it was a great experience. And because it was kind of a hometown gig, my then girlfriend, then fiance, now wife, she was in that area too when she finished up school. So it allowed us to save a little money. When I first got the Kane County job, I went back to living with my parents. They were gracious enough to let me back in, and I could save a little money. And because, as you know, when you're starting out, the dollars, well, they're still not that massive, but the dollars are not massive. And so that Kane County job just afforded me so many opportunities, regular games again, full-time employment, saving a little bit of money to kind of build up as a young professional, and then just a great organization to work with. And it was there that I started as a full-time member of the team, working in the off-season, helping sell sponsorships and working in marketing and helping with media relations. Which then, you're probably going to ask how I got to Nashville. That job now that I have here with the Sounds, and I've been here since 2012, that job description when it opened up was very similar to what I'd been doing in Kane County. So it made me a logical fit, I think, to apply for that job and try to move up in terms of the level of baseball, but in terms of the actual job, very similar to what I've been doing in Kane County.
That's amazing. What was your time like working with ESPN as a play-by-play?
Well, to be clear, I've never, I'm not working directly for ESPN. I've done over the years here in Nashville, the ESPN Plus, the ESPN3 digital broadcasts for some of the schools that they produce. Started a couple of games a few years ago with Lipscomb University, and then Middle Tennesse State University. So it's not as though I'm broadcasting directly for ESPN, but it's on one of their platforms. Some of the basketball work that I do in the off season. That's the one thing I'm fortunate to get to be able to do. Baseball runs April to September, and it dominates my life in a lot of ways. But in the off season, it's a fairly regular 9 to 5 style role with the Sounds. So evenings and weekends are free for me to broadcast a little bit of football here and a little bit of basketball there. I love doing all those sports. So I feel very fortunate that I get to do all three of those on a fairly regular basis. And so your question about that ESPN role between radio and television, And high school and college football and basketball, I do a good volume of work in the off season that I really love doing.
That's pretty impressive. What was it like when you got the Oakland Athletics job as the play-by-play?
Well, that was a one-day fill-in opportunity in July of 2018. I got to make my regular season Major League Baseball broadcast debut, and it was phenomenal. It was a dream come true. It felt like some validation for all the hours and years that I put in at the minor league level. For most guys, not everybody, but for most guys, that's the end goal to get to broadcast major league games. If you're starting out in minor league baseball as a broadcaster, pretty much stands to reason you would have that goal of getting to the major leagues if you can. So tough to do, so tough to get there regularly and stay there. And so at least for one day, I had that opportunity. I filled in for Vince Cotroneo of the Oakland A's. He's an outstanding radio broadcaster. He works with Ken Korak, who's been in Oakland for a long time. So I worked with Ken. Funny story, though, about how it unfolded, Brandon. It was in late June. I got word in early June that they were going to have the need for me to fill in. So I knew a few weeks out the day was coming. Well, the day before, the game got rained out. And so my day, the day that I knew all along I was going to get, turned into a doubleheader. And so I got to do two games instead of the one. And it's a corny joke, but I stand by it. I think I was the only one. It was at US Cellular Field in Chicago, now guaranteed rate field, I guess it's still called and was called then. In Chicago, the White Sox were hosting the A's. And I think I was the only guy in the ballpark excited that day that it was a doubleheader because I just wanted the day to go on as long as possible. And I got two for the price of one, and I'll never forget it. Ken was great. The A's were great. If I never get to the big leagues again, I'll have that day forever. And I treasure it because it was just so much fun. And it's what I had been working for all along, and I'm still working for it to get back there and stay. But to have it for a day was pretty sweet.
That's pretty amazing that you got it in double header. What have you accomplished so far at Nashville Sound as the play-by-play and director of broadcast?
Well, I'm really proud to be part of the organization that we have here. We're well respected here in town. This is a really good sports market. When you think of this market having now Major League Soccer, it's long had the NFL and the NHL. So it's got three major league sports, and AAA is the second highest level of baseball there is. So this is a really good sports town, and the Sounds are a big part of that. We've got a beautiful ballpark that opened a few years ago, and I worked a few years in the old one and was part of the transition over to the new one. So we're excited about that. And just from an organization, it's a great group to be a part of. I'm proud of the broadcasting I do. It's been a great experience so far. I love it here. It's kind of how I felt in Kane County for a while. In Kane County, I was being in that spot, even though I wanted to keep moving up, and I would apply for jobs like the Nashville job, AAA jobs, and some AA jobs. I felt like being in a great setup in Kane County allowed me to be a little bit more selective in what I pursued, because I wasn't feeling like, oh, this is terrible here. I got to get out of here. I'll take any next job I can get. I didn't feel that way. And I have that same feeling here in Nashville. I would love to get to the major leagues if I can, or to get to an ESPN or, a network level job of some kind. But I'm also really happy here and appreciative of the job that I do have. So it allows me to kind of still work toward that goal, but not feel like, I'm in this awful situation. I love this city, and my family's very happy here. So I'm very fortunate to be in a great situation.
What is a typical game day like for a play-by-play before COVID and then after COVID?
Well, hopefully after COVID, we'll get that answered soon. We can get our season going and figure out what, at least at our level, the new normal looks like. We've observed it a lot in any other sports over the last year and a half, but losing our 2020 season was devastating, and we're trying to get our 2021 season off the ground as soon as Major League Baseball will allow. But a typical day for me, it's different than just about everybody else in our front office, because at the minor league level, usually your broadcaster is probably the only guy who travels regularly with the team when the team goes on the road. Not to say that our organization isn't thinking about what happens when the team is on the road, but so many of them are geared, promotions or ticket sales, what have you. They're geared to the home games. They're thinking about the home schedule, and as the broadcaster, you're thinking about the full boat, home and road. So I'm fortunate to be in a situation where I work for a team that understands the time demands that are put on traveling and having the volume of games that we do. So if we're home for a 7:05 game, I'm usually at the ballpark early in the afternoon, probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock, plenty early. I mentioned earlier, I've got a sales role as well with the team. So I need to make sure I'm getting what I need to get done there, in addition to having enough time to not be rushed and to just carefully and methodically prepare for the broadcast that night. So I'm there a good 6 hours typically before first pitch. And that's kind of what it's like for however that homestand is. I'm not in the office when the team has an off day, but then when we go on the road, I'm going with them. And my day in terms of preparing for the broadcast is fairly similar on the road to what it is at home. It's a little bit less focused perhaps on some of the sales oriented elements, because I'm not going to have, a sponsor coming to the game that night or somebody that I need to go down and say hi to before the game the way I might for home games. But for road games, the same preparation gets involved in getting ready for the broadcast that night. So it's still, hours before the game, you're arriving at the ballpark to get ready for the broadcast.
With, of course, this upcoming season, can you talk about, of course, how you plan to prepare for announcing games, such as, like, let's say if a player has COVID and won't be playing in that game?
Well, I think a lot of that will get answered by, some of the protocols that MLB will put in place. I mean, we're now a Milwaukee Brewers affiliate again. And so I think a lot of that will come from how that gets handled by our parent club compared to from a purely sounds standpoint. The biggest thing I'm trying to do as preparation for the season is from our sponsorship standpoint, but from purely a baseball standpoint, is just get reacquainted with Milwaukee. We were a Brewers affiliate for 10 years, starting in 2005 through 2014. So we had Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder and Ricky Weeks and a lot of those guys from years ago in Milwaukee came through Nashville. Then we were an A's affiliate for a few years, and then a Texas Rangers affiliate, and now we're back with Milwaukee. And so a lot of the names are different, and of course they're bringing in new players all the time as minor league free agents. So there's a lot of reacquainting going on for me, figuring out, all right, what does this depth chart look like? Who are we probably going to have in Nashville this year? Who's going to make the Brewers team? And just getting familiar with a lot of new players that maybe I saw as visiting players the last couple of years on a Brewers farm team, but didn't call their games firsthand every day. So that's really the preparation that we're gearing up for. Is a new parent club means a lot of new names to get familiar with.
What is something that you learn now that you didn't know before starting broadcasting?
Oh man, there's a lot. You're always learning, always trying to get better. I mean, there's just so many layers. That's a good question that's not easily and quickly answered. I think one thing is you realize, I think when it's really easy when you're first starting out to be naive. You don't know any better about so many little and big things about the industry that you're in, or about how hard it is to move up to here, or to get to here, or to network with certain people, or to get your name out there a little bit more, to put yourself in a position for different opportunities. So you learn along the way the right way to go about that, and the best way to go about that, and to try to just improve yourself. You're always meeting new people, and you just realize that there's a lot out there. And the other thing I love about the broadcast industry is that even though we're all kind of trying to climb the same mountain, everybody, for the most part, it's an industry where guys want to help each other, and people want to help each other get better and get the job or get that job. And if I can't get that job, truly being thrilled that somebody else got that job. It's really easy. It's kind of like how I think how ball players are. At AAA, we see it all the time where a guy goes up to the major leagues, and the other guys in the clubhouse who didn't get that call up, there's going to be an element for them of, well, why isn't it me? And that's normal, and that's common. But then they also so quickly are just excited for their teammate who gets to go to the big leagues because they know how hard it is to get to the big leagues. And I feel like that element comes into play a lot in the broadcast world. We're all trying to move up, or we're all trying to get better, or attain whatever level we've kind of put on ourselves of what success looks like, and that's fine. But one, you got to be happy where you're at, and two, you got to be a good human being and acknowledge other good people who are also trying to do the same thing. And I've learned that about the industry, and it never ceases to amaze me. There are a lot of us that are probably going after some of the same things, and when one guy gets it, that's great. Just because we don't get it doesn't mean that we can't be happy for somebody else. So I feel like in an industry where it's very competitive and very talented, I love the volume of good people that are in the industry and are happy for each other's success and not just trying to attain their own success, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Nashville Sounds?
Well, we're at Nashville Sounds on Twitter and all the different social media channels. My Twitter handle is at Jeff Hem PVP, as in play-by-play. So it's JEFFHEM PVP. And folks can find me there. And whenever I'm going to work a game, I always try to tweet out where people can find it, what link they can click on, or what station they can go to. So that's usually a pretty good landing spot on Twitter.
Thank you again, Jeff Helms, for your interview, and best of luck. And I look forward to hearing your play-by-play in this upcoming future.
Well, Brandon, thanks for having me. It was fun to talk with you, and I enjoy the work you do, and I appreciate you inviting me to be on today.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Jeff, for your interview, and best of luck.
All right, thanks, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.